Welcome to our show, Innovation Dialogue. I'm Diana Ding, and today we're going to talk about a award-winning film and a filmmaker. So we're so honored to have Tony Shyu with us today. Thank you, Tony, for coming. So start from last year, 2022, Ding TV worked with Himalaya Entertainment, Tony's company, and started this documentary film to tell Asian American stories and their contributions in Silicon Valley. So this film, for now, we call it The Builders of Silicon Dream. And we during this working together with Tony, and we feel so honored to have such a experience. And it's not only his experience, and it's about his passion towards Asian American. So we during this working together, we started from last year, and we have done lots of footage. And for now, we're doing the editing, and this film is going to be on the American Public Channel pretty soon. But today, we're not going to talk about this film. We're going to talk about Tony's other film, the award he won. So Tony, first of all, please give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Well, thank you, Diana, for inviting me for this interview. I am an immigrant myself. I came to the US when I was 12 years old, and I have my share of, bias and discrimination toward me when I was growing up and going to school here because, I, like a lot of people, that we are minority, very, very much a minority group that usually I am the only Asian in the school or the only Chinese. So I have a lot of experience with in terms of having a certain bias and perception that people have toward me as I was growing up in America. But despite that, we all love this country, and now we have the future generation that's growing up in America, the future AAPI generation. I wanted to make films that represent us, that represent our story and comes from our perspective. So I think because a lot of these prejudice and racism happened because of misunderstanding of a certain culture. And so people have a preconception of who you are and how you are. So I wanted to make more films in the media that represents us, so people can see who we are, what we are like. So that way, we will have more culture understanding. And with culture understanding, it comes empathy, so they can relate. They understand, oh, they're just like us, family, working hard and, to achieve our American dream. So that's why I think it's very important to show that part of us.
Thank you, Tony. I think your job is so important to representing our Asian Americans in Hollywood. But, even though there are so many Asian American filmmakers in Hollywood, but still there's some barriers. So what is the biggest challenge for you and for the Asian American filmmakers?
Well, I think through the years, it's been a lot better, has improved. For example, 20 or 30 years ago, when I started out in the film industry, if I wanted to present a film with all Asian cast about Asian stories, nobody would make that film because they don't think there's box office potential and it will probably lose money. But throughout the years, recently, especially, that's been proved that's not true. Actually, people do want to see Asians on screen, and if the story is good, people will want to see it. So Hollywood is dictated by ticket sales and money making. So if you're able to produce films that are good, then Hollywood will accept. And I think that's been opening up. But there's still challenges because there are still challenge in terms of being authentic, telling the authentic Asian American story instead of, as you know, in the film industry are mostly Caucasians. So we need more Asians to be behind the camera and in front of the camera to be able to tell really our story. And that's been really improved for the last few years, actually.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. You're talking about, the film has to be good itself. Last year, when I was at your film screening for the Race Epidemic, and I was so touched. At the end, the whole theater, the full theater, stood up, and a round of applause gave to you for a long time. And I was touched to tears. And I think, that film is really has put a lot of effort. So why did you produce that film, and when did that started?
The idea actually was 2018 when we decided to do a film about sort of the bias toward Asian at the time. But we didn't know anything about what's going to happen in terms of COVID-19 and how things are developing. So it was really interesting because in the beginning, when we were doing the film, that time was Crazy Rich Asian was doing well in the box office. People thought Asian was the beloved minority. So when we were doing about the bias, some people wasn't convinced, But I did the film mainly because I wanted the next generation, the younger generation, Asian Americans, to understand if they were experiencing these kind of racism, which is rarely talked about in the media, that is they can understand why. It's not because they don't belong in this country. They do belong in this country, and Asian American has a long history of contribution to United States. So that was the main reason. And then, of course, things took a unexpected turn when COVID-19 hit. I had a bad feeling actually already because I thought, okay, Asians are gonna get the blame because how they talk about the virus. So of course, then a lot of these anti-Asian sentiment, spiked very quick in this country, and that's why the film become even more important. And I had a purpose to really kind of dig into the story to make sure that people have to understand why these kind of things happened. It happened because it happened before. And we have to remember. So to make this film is very important because 20 years from now, maybe people forget too, and it'll happen again. So if they see this film, they will realize, oh, this is not something new, and they can take steps to prevent these kind of things. So that's why it's very important to have media and film representation to be there so people will understand us.
Yes, I think it's really important for us to remember our history, to understand our position and know the direction to the future. And this film become very successful, have won lots of awards. So how many awards you won for this film?
Oh, I think we were in 30 something film festivals that we were selected at, to play. We won so far, I believe, 9 Best Documentary Film Awards, and including Best Director. So I'm very proud of that, mainly because I think the award kind of certify us that people do care about this kind of film, and they do feel it's important, especially the non-Asian audience who watched this film. They were some of them actually came up to me and said thank you. I actually didn't know a lot of that happened in America, and they realized, oh wow, we never learned anything from it. that's because in American history, especially we learn growing up here, you don't learn much about that. So I'm very happy that actually non-Asian Americans, non-Asian in America actually is able to watch this film and understand us. And also the younger generation of Asian Americans who actually did not know much about our own history also watched this film and realized there's actually quite a lot of history they don't know about.
Yes, definitely. You and this film has won a lot of awards and recognitions, but importance is how many people are going to watch this and how many people are going to see this film. So recently it's going to be on PBS, right? So tell
Yes.
us something about that and how many people are going to watch this. To over 200 million audience, right?
Yes. Potential audience.
Potential audience, yes. That means cover this range. Yes, we just want people to know when it's going to be here in the San Francisco Bay Area or California, so people can watch it. And let me share this on the screen. So yeah, tell people that you can share this information and tell this to your friends and tell them when to watch this film. So actually on September, starting from today, September 5th, almost till the end of this month, it's going to be on San Francisco and Sacramento on the PBS channels. So potentially this is a number going to reach. It's a whole nation. So Tony, how do you define the success of a documentary film? I think that the Race Epidemic is successful, but how do you define as a professional?
Well, my job as a professional is always, I see myself as a communicator, how I communicate to the audience. And the powerful thing about film is emotional. And if you can convey how you feel and the story you want to tell, and it affects the audience and engage them, and they feel somehow they can relate to it, that's the most important thing. Because once they can relate to it, for example, if someone who lives somewhere in middle America, they don't see any Asian people there, but if they watch this film, they feel like they can relate to the people and relate to our story. And that's very important because it has a universal theme that we can all relate to. So with that understanding of the culture, and perspective, then there comes empathy. And with empathy, then it comes culture understanding. And people are able to see us differently than just some of the narrative that's in the media right now.
Thank you. So Tony, so let's watch the trailer and see how this film related to our audience.
Unexpected side effect of this coronavirus crisis, Asian Americans becoming targets of discrimination.
They pulled in on his eye so that at the end of the spot, all you saw was his eye like this. There were pretty distinct evidences of anti-Asian bias.
Asian Americans face the stereotype of being considered foreigners in their own land.
Asians have one of the longest histories of being victims of stereotypes.
But a great many of them, of course, were citizens of the United States. But why do you think they were treated that way, for instance, and the Italians and Germans were not, who were also our enemies at the time?
That because your face looks different, therefore you must have been born in a different country.
When I was growing up in Boston, I was regularly called chink, gook, Jap.
And right there on the front page was coverage of that these two killers had received probation for killing a Chinese man.
That's not necessarily the stereotype of Asian Americans, that they're strong and they're tough and they're going to kick ass with criminals.
There's something that doesn't allow Americans to say, hey, yeah, he could be the leader.
They're the so-called model minority that nobody feels sorry for.
And what I'm fearful of is that when you see all of these communities marching in the streets because there are direct attacks, Asians say, well, it's not quite us. But if you look at history, it's only a matter of time.
Racist attacks and pestilence are linked in history. When the Black Death ravaged Europe in the 14th century, mobs killed thousands of Jews accused of spreading plague.
And the tendency to use race as a scapegoat for things that people are unhappy about.
The Chinese virus.
You dirty Chinese, and he just kept saying that over and over again. I've never felt anything like this before.
This, just one of many incidents across the country now being reported.
Hate is one of the strongest motivating factors. That divisiveness has been with us.
The pandemic has revived much older, larger, racist, anti-immigrant narratives. It's part of our very long history of xenophobia and racism. And we know that, in particular, disease has intersected with this idea that immigrants are a threat.
I am a little bit shocked that we moved in that direction so quickly.
I think there's a deeper problem, the issue of Asian culture and Asian pride.
This is not my history that somebody who is cooking your fried rice or your wings. That's not my history.
We need to do more as Asian Americans. We can't just sit in the sidelines.
Wow, thank you, Tony. You know, when I'm sitting there, I don't feel it's finished. Still watching. It was a wonderful job, and congratulations for the big success.
You want to watch more, right?
Yes, of course, we want to watch more. So tell us and how people can watch besides on the PBS channel. PBS actually is a very, I would say, respectful and trustworthy channel. Anything on PBS means the quality, means, you know, the public belief, I feel like. So this is really huge. It's good job. Thank you. So besides PBS and how people can watch it online, tell us.
People can watch it by going on the website. The website is the Race Epidemic.com is the name of the film, and the Race Epidemic.com, and they can go on the website to watch it. And there's also books. People, if you're interested to read more about the facts and insights about the film, the topic of the film, it goes really deep into the history and everything. So yeah, so there's plenty to explore and learn about Asian American histories on the website.
Okay, thank you, Tony, and thank you, everyone. And in the future, we're going to invite Tony again and to just share with us how a high-quality documentary film is made. And we're so fortunate to work with Tony starting from last year, beginning of last year, for telling the Asian American stories, especially Chinese American stories, the pioneers in Silicon Valley. Thank you, Tony. See you next time.
Thank you.